You're listening to the Strategically Podcast. I'm Tyler Collins.
And I'm Brandon Collins. As we like to say, strategy is all about finding the best way to get from where you are to where you want to be.
Head over to our website, Strategically, that's strategic.li, for more tools and content. But right now, you can join us for this casual conversation where we dive deep into the concepts behind thinking strategically in life, business, or whatever you care about.
It's almost like we're saying there are two kinds of levels of success. There's one that is the relative level of success, meaning how do you rank against the world or against your industry or against other people who do the things that you do? And that's one level of success. So if take basketball, if 0 is like you've never picked up a basketball and number 10 is like Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and you're like a high school basketball player, you're what, like a 3 or, a 4 or whatever.
Yeah, a 1 maybe.
Yeah, but if being then there's another kind of level of success, which is an internal level of success or a core level or a personal level of success, maybe is how I would say it. And maybe being a level 4 relative level of success, high school basketball player, but you enjoy playing basketball and you always have fun and you like running around and working out and having fun and talking smack, and then that personal level of success is a level 10. You still get this level 10 joy from a level 4 relative level of success. I think that's it's almost like there's two levels at play. And what we're not saying is like, be happy with not getting joy. We're saying defining your relative level of success and choosing it on purpose rather than letting it be chosen for you.
Yes.
Then that will help determine what joy you get and what your internal personal level of success will be from that relative level of success. Does that make sense how I kind of separated those?
Yeah. And I think what the other thing that we're also saying is that the level of your joy, because that's, I think, the thing that people also don't think about is that we make the end destination all about the level of success. And I think that's why you see quarter life crisis, midlife crisis, because you attain a level of success and then realize you're not happy. And then why did I do this? Well, you did it because you didn't realize that the actual goal, right, is your joy and fulfillment and happiness in your life. That's why you're doing that career. Yes. That's why You assumed that level of success would be the thing that brought you that joy, and you were wrong. So, I think that's a perfect segue to say, how does one go about starting asking this question and answering this question? What should my relative level of success be? Should I try to be the best violinist in the world, or should I just enjoy myself, or should I be a YouTuber, or should my small business try to have $1 million in funds, or should I try to go public? How do you begin to start answering that question? What are some big things you think? So I do think number one is looking at other people who have achieved different levels of success and seeing what did they have to do to get there. And the example that I think about often is authors. And I think about it because it was something that I considered was like, I really loved fiction, especially sci-fi and fantasy, of course. And I thought, man, I really would love to write. I was always coming up with stories in my head. And I thought, man, that would be great. Like that would be in my mind, like that would bring me happiness, success. If I could have success, like just get a novel published and write a great nonfiction, fiction. I said nonfiction, fiction book. Sorry. But then when I started like reading these, like how to write a book, and I started reading how, what is the daily grind that authors have to go through, I was like, ugh, that does not sound like fun to me. And even trying it myself, that was another thing I did, like, actually start writing. I wrote a couple, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 chapters. I think you read that. Of a fiction book, a sci-fi book. And I honestly, I do think that like I probably was good enough to do it. Like when I read my work and I compared it to other people's work and I got feedback and like obviously need a lot of work because I was new at it, obviously.
Sure.
But I realized like now I have to do this for like a couple hundred more times. Like I got to keep doing this over and over again. So the number one for me was like, is that really how I want to spend my life?
Yes.
Am I really going to be like happy doing that over and over again? So I guess the way I'm saying is like finding out, I think that success comes down to, and there's another great book, Atomic Habits. I forget the author's name again, but that's another great book where it really gets you down to brass tacks of like, what does it actually take to be successful? And at the end of the day, it's like doing the same thing over and over again consistently. That's what it takes. There's an interesting quote towards the end of that book where he interviewed an Olympic coach, and he said, what's the most important quality that the best Olympic athletes have? And this is like just incredible. This is why it sticks out in my mind. His answer, they can do boring things more than anybody else. Wow. Because that's what it takes. And especially when you think about Olympic athletes, the level, like the difference between gold and silver is microseconds. You know, it's so minute. So that one extra rep that you put in that your competitor didn't put in is going to be the difference between gold and silver and bronze and bronze and silver. And so that's what the coach was saying. Like you're going to have to do that thing over and 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 keep doing it. And it's going to be so boring. You know, in the beginning, it's fun because it's new and you're mastering it. But then once you've mastered it, just getting a little bit better, like 2% better or even 0.5% better, that's what leads to the gold medal rather than the silver medal. And because everybody is, practicing every day, everybody is putting in thousands of hours. So it's like not about that anymore. It's just about you doing that one thing just a little bit more, just a little bit better than somebody else.
And I think what you said there is really important. I think because earlier you said try it yourself. Look at what a level of success someone did, how they achieved it, and then try it yourself. But when you say try it, you're not talking about trying the fun, flashy thing that you think. Yeah. You're talking about that boring stuff.
Thing.
Like,
that's exactly
what is
what
the
I'm
boring
talking
thing that it's going to take to be successful?
Yeah.
And then do that. So like maybe you're looking at a novel you're like writing a novel thing, like writing a fun story is not what it is. Yeah. It's the daily 1,000 words, grind. Yep. Or what's another one? Like maybe basketball or a sports thing. Like, it's not playing the game. Yes. Playing the game is not the thing you do every day to get better. Yep. It's the one exercise or the one practice, dribbling with your left hand or your right hand or the 100th free throw or a 3-point shot you shoot. Yep. Or here's another perfect example, going back to the fighting game thing. Like, there was a time where I was like, I'm really going to get better at this because I enjoy it, but I think I'll enjoy it more if I get better. And so I tried and I practiced a lot, but what I realized as I watched, I did exactly what you said there. I watched YouTube videos explaining people who are like the best in the world at this fighting game I played. Yep. They were like, these are some of the things I do. And it basically was like, so in fighting games, there's like combos. And it's like you punch, then you jump, then you kick, and then you backflip to just the right place and you dodge at just the right moment. But to do all that, you have to have the timing perfect and you have to know exactly what button to push. And they will practice combos.
Those combos.
They won't be fighting anyone. They'll just go into a practice with a dummy and just do that same button push repetition over again and again and again, hundreds of times until it's so drilled in that they can do it without thinking. And then in a game, when they need to use that combo, they pull it out. And I was like, oh, that's what it's going to take for me to get to the next level. I'm just not interested in that, So I think that's really well said. To do the boring stuff, to try. When we say try it out, we're not saying the fun, flashy, what everyone sees, but the boring stuff that really is what makes you get successable, right? Absolutely. Do the boring stuff and say, is this for me? Can I take this? Yeah. Can I handle this? And
even how much of that boring stuff can I do? I think what makes the best in the world is that they enjoy the boring stuff. And you look at them and you think, that is so weird, right? Yeah. Why do you like doing that? Whatever it might be in that field. But that's what makes them great, is that they're able to do that boring thing over and over again, and they enjoy doing it. Do
you think that's true, or do you think that it's really more? So earlier in one of our previous sessions, we talked about like, what price are you willing to pay? What are you willing to sacrifice? Yeah. Is it more like that Olympic athlete they're so will get so much joy out of that gold medal,
win,
or the speed runner will get so much joy out of shaving that 1 second off, that it's not that they would enjoy the monotonous task if that wasn't there, but they enjoy the process because they are so in love with, I don't know if that's the right phrase, but so enamored with, they'll be so enjoyed, they think they'll be so with the end product. I
think that this is just I'm only 35, so I don't have that much life experience, and I don't know of any studies. It would be interesting to see somebody do a study on this, but I don't know of any. Maybe there are that would really answer that question. So I'm just going to use my own personal experience, but I think that you can only go so far on the motivation of attaining that end goal. I think you can go far with that, especially if you've done a good job at making it a very specific goal, very clear. And there's a lot of studies about that. And, it's pictured well in your mind. You've almost experienced it before you've experienced it. The studies talk about that as well. You can go very far with that. I don't think you can go as far as you just love doing that thing over and over again. Because I just think that there's a point where you will quit, because it takes energy to do those boring things, even mental energy. And if you are able to do those boring things and it's not sapping your energy, it's actually giving you energy, that makes you unstoppable. That makes you basically invincible. And you look at the people who are the best in the world, that's normally the reason why. I mean, there could be other factors depending on, I don't want to make a blanket statement. There could be other factors, but I think that is the main factor, is that they're energized by those boring things that drags other people down and makes them quit, So I have 2 examples of that are true to what you're saying, although I don't know if I agree. I would love to hear what your thoughts is on that. Well, as you're talking, the 2 things that came to my mind were personal examples. So one at both of us that both of us sort of experienced. So the first one is, when did we write that Evernote book? Was that 10 years ago? 2012. So 8 years ago. I thought it was 8 years ago, 2012. So we mentioned this in the first episode. Session 1. A few years ago, 2012, you, Tyler, you were like, hey, you should write a book and I'll market it for you. And I was like, okay, whatever, I guess. But at the time I was really getting into Evernote, and I loved organizing things and thinking through a system. And so I ended up writing a book about how to use and organize Evernote, and you get your whole life in Evernote. But the way that I did it was every night for about 30 minutes, I pulled out my iPad with a little keyboard and I just wrote for 30 or 20 minutes on that topic. And it was not hard. I enjoyed writing that every night. And before long, after a month or 2, I forget how long it took, but I ended up having thousands of words written, and I had enjoyed all the boring steps along the way. That's the boring part of writing, is sitting down every day and writing hundreds of words. But I was able to do it because the topic I enjoyed, and I liked thinking and framing, how would I coach someone into doing this? So that's one example that very much lines up with what you're saying. And that book ended up being very successful. So there's that. And the second example, and I don't know, maybe this is a poorer one, but I think of these sessions that we record. We are doing the hard part of writing a book. As we have these sessions, we're thinking the thoughts and writing the words. And, yes, certainly later we're going to have to come back and fill some of this out. But we both always say when we hang up on these streams, man, that was fun. I really enjoyed that. We got to keep doing these streams because there's something in it that we love. Even though we're also working toward a book that's going to come out of this, and a system and a process and tools, that's really not what's motivating us in this moment. Even if we never, put out a book, I would still have enjoyed all these times we've had. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So those are 2 examples that very much line up with what you said, that it is about loving actually doing the boring stuff, that what most people find boring, if you love it. And I would definitely agree that gives you a massive advantage. Yeah. But I just wonder if take the guy practicing the combo in the fighting game for the 100th time, or Steph Curry shooting his 100th 3-pointer every day. Does he really enjoy that? I don't know. Is he glad that he's doing it every time he does it? Maybe. I'd be very curious. Like you said, I think it really would come down to a study. And maybe there's different for everybody. Maybe one guy loves it and one guy doesn't, and maybe they both have similar levels of success, but it's just easier for him and he has more fun, Yeah, sure.
I don't know. That's a really interesting question.
Yeah, and maybe you can't even answer that question because there's a lot of assumptions baked into that. And how could, like, maybe it's not even possible to measure how far. It's almost like you'd have to take a step back and, like, you'd have to measure motivation and almost like mental energy, right? Like, how much mental energy do you get out of imagining yourself achieving a certain goal? Like, how much does that motivate you versus how much does mental energy do you gain, or does it motivate you to continue to do that boring thing over and over again and know you're slowly getting better at it, or just doing it because you just like doing it? Could you ever even measure those two things? That seems impossible to me. But, like, I feel like at the same time, having said that, whenever I hear people interviewed, the best in the world, so to speak, I'm always listening for them to say something like that. Like, I'm listening for what is it that they're doing that's motivating them, And I feel like I've heard more often than not them say, I just love breaking down tape. Like, I've heard Tom Brady interviewed, and you'll hear him say that. Like, man, I just love, it was the same with Peyton Manning. People would be like, yeah, every Monday morning, that dude was the first one breaking down tape and saying, telling everybody what they did wrong.
When you say breaking down tape, what does that mean?
They watch the film of their games back, and they basically pick apart what they did right, what they did wrong, Like the replays and learn from it. Well, so it's not the same as watching the game because they have a different camera angles than most people do. They also they have software too that can measure distances and all that to give them even more data. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. But that's a lot, especially for quarterbacks, of what goes into success because it's really actually when you get to the NFL level, and I'm not an expert at this, I'm just telling you from what I've, learned. But those guys physically probably aren't all that different. Tom Brady's actually a perfect example where nobody ever thought he was going to be the greatest quarterback ever. Like, he didn't have the arm, he didn't have the speed, he didn't have the physical presence. But I think what he had that maybe nobody else had was the love of doing that boring thing over and over again.
That was really the key to success.
Yeah. And right. I think so for the quarterback, I think it really comes down to, like, decision making and how quickly you can read a defense and make the right decision. And then, obviously physically you still got to make the throw. That's obviously a part of it. But on the NFL level, you would say probably 99% of the guys have the physical ability to make the correct throw if they were able to, know
what it was.
Exactly. Quickly enough. Because that's the other part too, is in the NFL, it's a lot about speed. The speed of the game increases so much. And that's why a lot of times you see guys going from college to NFL and they don't make it. It's not that he didn't have the physical capabilities necessarily, but probably the speed of the game, they couldn't make the decisions quick enough. So you think about that and you think, it's just a lot of, like, looking at the film on defenses, like in preparation for the game, looking at your mistakes and, like, oh, I threw it there, but if I'd have just turned my head a quarter of degrees, I would have seen that guy wide open, streaking down the sideline, and you still got to make the throw. I'm not trying to take away from that, but it's making those reads. So just getting in the, breaking that film down, doing it in your mind. Even I've seen a lot now. This is actually really interesting. Is they'll have quarterbacks wear a VR headset and then they can simulate the play in real time. So, and they can turn, they can turn their heads so they know, because that's a lot of it too, is you don't realize how much a helmet, I know we're getting a little deep on this, but how much a helmet actually breaks your field of vision. So even just like turning your head in the right direction, because now if you turn your head like this, you blocked a big amount of your vision and you might not see that guy's open. When you watch it on TV, you're like, how did he miss that?
Yeah.
So all that to say, I know I got really deep on that, but I find it interesting. All that to say, I've heard that story so often that I do think that is the main thing. But could you ever prove it? Massive study, and I don't even know if you could prove it.
That's so interesting. Yeah. Well, so I think that's a really excellent one. Is like finding out. Doing the research to figure out what's the boring thing that really leads to success, the boring, repetitious thing, and then trying that and seeing, are you capable of doing that? Do you enjoy doing that to the level you'd have to do? That's one excellent one. Another one that I thought, so I've been thinking as you were talking, I was just thinking about organizations, and I think
absolutely
there are also some equivalent things in organizations. Like, is your organization, is your team willing to, do the thing. Like maybe it's a working the system or working the process, or maybe it's a type of communication. We're not going to, I don't know how it would go. Or maybe it's a sales thing. And it's like, are you willing to track every call or to work this process? Because we know this process leads to success, but will you do that 100 times and not be upset about it? Not be like, oh my gosh, I got to do this again. And if not, like, then that might not be for you. You might not be okay with that.
Well, and
so
two that you didn't mention, but you have them here, and I really like them. So I'm going to bring them up because you put them in here. I'm going to steal your thunder. But what you said here, maybe you have to fire someone because, do you want to jump in on that?
Oh, so actually, I do, but I actually think that's a different thing. So I think because I'm trying to answer the question, or we've been talking about how do you define your level of success, right? And so I think the first one is like, see the boring thing that other people do to be successful and try that and see if that's good for you. But I think the other one is to count the cost, like reckon with the sacrifices you'll have to make. And I think you hit on that earlier as well. We both have a couple of times, but so maybe it's your family. You'll have less time to be with your family. Maybe you'll have less time to work on your health or less time to sleep. Or if you're an organization, again, going back to the organization, maybe it's like a certain kind of culture. Like maybe you want to be friends with all your fellow employees, but if you want to achieve a high level of success as an organization, that may not be possible. You might have to really lean into that official, I'm the boss, and not I'm the boss, but I'm the manager and I have to let you go because you're not performing well enough. And like, it doesn't matter that I like you and that I know, you love this job, but if our company is going to be as successful as it can be, I need to put a higher performer in that spot. So counting the cost and thinking in advance, am I willing to do that? Do I want to do that? Is that a thing that I'm okay with doing? Which I think is different than the first one. Does that make sense?
I'm not
That's why I
seeing
wanted to keep
how
it
it's
separate
different.
a little bit.
Personally, seems the same to me.
Because that's not to do with, because it's less to do with the boring, like repetitive.
Oh yeah.
Do the thing that makes you good over and over. It's more to do with like, are you willing to sacrifice the thing you'd have to sacrifice, which is a different thing. So it's like, can you handle the boredom? But then can you handle the sacrifice? So I think like those are both things that need to happen. Like, so it's almost like the negative and the positive. The positive is like, here's what you'll be spending your time on. Watching tape, watching replays. Here's what you will have to give up in order to have that time. Being with your friends and family. Are you willing to do both of those things? Are you willing to not do one and do the other one? If that makes sense. So that's kind of how I see them differently. So I think those are two really great ones. And then another one that comes to my mind, and you actually kind of hit on it in the sports example too, is straight up personal capacity. Like, so the quarterback example, you have to be able to make the throw. Like I won't be able to make those throws, even if I was the genius, strategic NFL like quarterback. I wouldn't be able to put the ball where it needs to go because my arm's not strong enough. So like there is a level of being realistic with your personal capacity. What are you capable of? Not just physically, but mentally, personality wise, emotionally. Are there anything else that comes to your mind when it comes to like why would you pick a higher
the
versus
other one
lower
that's coming to
level
my
of success?
mind is, we really haven't touched on this a lot, which is interesting, but you want to leave a mark on the world. I guess that's how I would say it. I think about this a lot with your company, but I think it absolutely with personal as well. Like you might push for a higher level of success because you want to make a name for yourself or you want to leave a lasting legacy. That's probably a better way of saying it. That's a more positive way of saying it probably. And that means a lot to you. You want a lot of people to be crying at your funeral, so to speak. I mean, I'm not saying that's why you're doing it, but you want that to be true because you've impacted a lot of people, because your company made the world a better place, because you personally helped X number of people. You know what I'm saying? Maybe if you're a nonprofit, you've cured a disease or you stopped a huge problem that's plaguing the world and hurting lots of people, and you were the one that led the charge. Obviously you do it with the team. No one does anything alone, but you maybe led that charge. So I think that maybe we're discounting that a little bit, but so I think that's another piece of it. Yeah.
No, I don't think we are. I think that's what you said, because that's really what we spent the first section of this session and talking about is what are you after? What are you personally after? Whether this is your life or your job, What's your purpose? You should have this. I think you wrote this. What is your purpose in this endeavor? There's some great examples here. Like, are you trying to build the company up so you can sell it? Are you trying to start a nonprofit to solve a problem in the world? There's a lot of reasons you get into doing something. Are you trying to be, Tom Brady, the best quarterback in the world and be remembered for generations to come? Or are you just trying to make millions of dollars because you want to be rich? Like, there's lots of different reasons. And those also weigh in along with the other things. I think we talked about it earlier, but it's a good time to talk about it again, which is to say, what's the minimum level of success you would need to achieve the thing that you are personally after? Because why go past that if you've got what you wanted, right? Is that a good way of restating what you're saying?
I think it is different. How is it different? Here's how I think it could be different. I think it just changes your motivation. I think I look at a lot of this in very motivation-based ways. You like doing it. You like doing the boring thing. That's a motivator. You want to achieve a specific type of goal. This is similar to that in that you're trying to achieve a specific goal. But normally when you're trying to achieve a specific goal, like breaking a record, that is less about, it's to maybe show that, I think about the guy who was first broke the 5-minute mile and everybody said it couldn't be done.
4-minute mile. Yeah.
Yeah. 4-minute mile. And yet now it's like a regular occurrence, and so maybe there was a joy in just saying, see, it could be done. I did it. But there's something very different motivation, maybe, even though it seems similar, in just saying, I'm doing this for the betterment of other people. I'm doing this for the betterment of mankind. I'm doing this to leave a lasting legacy, to impact people. It's almost a higher level, maybe even spiritual level of success. And I'm not trying to say that's better or worse than other levels of success. I don't think it's worth going there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just different. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I still think that's like fundamentally, it's like, what will give you joy from this endeavor personally? Is it the doing of the thing? Or is it the achieving of something bigger than the thing? It is
similar in that it's just that the reward is different, Whereas the reward could be, I broke the record. The reward is I helped a person. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. It's just, I see it similar to like the speed running analogy we used before when you're playing a video game. Like one person playing a video game, they're doing it because the game is fun. Yeah. The speedrunner's playing the video game to break the record. Yeah. Right.
Or maybe they're doing it to, find a new hack in the game or find a glitch, and that's what they love doing, and you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Well, actually, no, because a lot of times those glitches and hacks are found by different people and just utilized by speedrunners. So that's there's even another way to play the game. Like, you're not even the one who breaks the record. You're the one who found the strategy that the person used to break the record. Yeah, did you hear that loud crashing in the background?
Something just crashed behind you.
Yeah, one of my kids just dropped something.
Yeah, and I think maybe we can wrap up there because I think this is a good place to reconsider, which is don't discount, and I don't even want to say discount, like lean into what you're after. So like there's an analogy that you and I have talked about a few times that I think is good to land on maybe. There's the Tom Brady's and LeBron James and who else is famous and successful, whatever, fill in the blank, Michael Phelps or whoever, like world dominating people, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk's, those people exist. And I'm sure that there's joy in their life. And I'm sure that level of success has brought them life experience and satisfaction in some ways. But then the person we often talk about is our grandmother on our mom's side, who, as far as I know, never had a full-time job in her life. Maybe briefly when she was younger, but was one of the warmest, kindest, loving people in our lives. Like, obviously your parents love you, but like she was just being there. You were at home. She loved serving you and making you happy and bringing joy and doing your favorite thing. And like, who's to say she didn't live just as good a life as Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, right? And when I say good a life, like, maybe that sounds weird to like compare those things, but like who's to say she didn't enjoy her life just as much as them, because that's what she wanted and that's what she did. And she did an amazing job at it. And she impacted, dozens of people instead of millions, but that's what she wants. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm being repetitive, but
no. I think you would say it's easy to look at Jeff Bezos and say he's like a level 10 in business, and to look at our grandmother, she's like a level 10 in care. Mm-hmm. And obviously one has a lot more money, and what you could say like, oh, well, he has way more success. But we look at it and say, no, they both had the same level of success, just in different ways, different areas. And it lined up with who they were and what they wanted out of life and what gave them joy. And yeah, that's what you're saying. And maybe even she had more joy than Jeff Bezos does.
That's
who knows? It's not like we've ever met him.
But that's what you hear with these super successful people often is what they tell us is like, it actually sucked all my joy and it, the stress and all of that. Mm-hmm. And then I don't want to maybe make it a little broader. Like it doesn't just mean your personal life. Like the same thing could be applied to Uber, the world famous explosion. What do they call it? A unicorn, right? Because it grew so fast and made billions of dollars. But like, who's to say that the CEO of some other, like here's the one I always think of is the company that makes Basecamp, which is an online project management software. They're like a small team. Mm-hmm. They're growing steady and slow. But like from what I see from the outside looking in, everyone loves working there. They love the project they're working on. They make good money. And I'm like, why do you have to be Uber? Why can't you be that? Or why can't you be the 3-person landscaping company that is all friends and they all work together and they love being together and they love the jobs they do? Like, why is one better than another one, right? Like, I think that's our point in all of this is like, don't let the stories, don't let the outside world, like you decide your level of success and then aim for that and then be strategic in seeking after that. I think that's the point.
Yeah. And I think to sort of end this discussion, the other point that I would want to make too, is it's okay to pivot from your level of success. It's very easy to fall into the trap of, assuming a level of success, or even saying, well, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to go for number 10. And then you start having to actually do it. And I know I do this a lot. I don't like to let myself quit on things. That's not who I am. I'm a very all in kind of person. So it's very hard for me to pivot on those kinds of things. So I really have to talk to myself and say, no, that's okay, because I've realized something about myself, and that is that I don't want to be the best in the world at this thing, or I don't want to be a level 10 at this thing, and that's okay. Yeah. But that's hard for me sometimes. And I think for high level achievers, for people, maybe people who are listening to this who, have accomplished a lot, it's hard to let yourself, it feels like you're settling to choose a lower level of success, but you're not. And I'm saying that for myself. Yeah, you're being honest with yourself.
Yes.
And that's healthier, and it's better for your joy, better for your happiness in the long run.
Yeah.
Even though it is hard.
Well, that's all for this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to hear the rest of this conversation, make sure to subscribe so you get new episodes as they're released. You can also view this content along with visuals on our YouTube channel. The link is in the show notes. We'll see you on the next one.